Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Rob Bear, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Wyatt Turk. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, great to be here.
What's up?
I think it's official. I've definitely played more games of 10th edition than I have 9th.
I'm proud of you.
But officially played more games with both of you, too.
My pride knows no bounds.
But I play Knights, so I don't know if that counts.
It doesn't. You're a terrible person.
Yeah, you've been
I am not.
Terrorist.
Anyone playing Knights is a fucking domestic terrorist.
Domestic. So I'm actually only going, I went back to re-rolling ones of just ones, just one, not all ones.
You didn't stand by it? What happened? I
didn't. Well, I kind of reread through it and working through how you select. It's very ambiguous.
Every time you read it, you can reinterpret it the opposite. I swear to God. That's the kind of rule it is.
It is very ambiguous.
Because honestly, because it's straight up human English language. It means reroll one. When you take into context of the core rules and how dice rolls are done for attack sequences, then it goes back to rerolling all. You see, it's the mechanic of how we play the game, and speed rolling is like a special thing, is why it means reroll all of them. But face value, that's not what that sentence is most likely to be interpreted as. So we could talk a little bit about that in our meat and potato section, because there is like a secret ruling on it apparently that was shared via somewhere, then recycled around Discord.
Email.
Yeah, an email, then a Discord screenshot.
Yeah.
So Tacoma, which is happening tomorrow perhaps, or the day after, or if you listen to this podcast, maybe you're at it right now. So like they did rule on it. We have a lot to say about that subject here in a minute.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we'll talk about Knight domination as well. Eldar domination, things like that, and the generalized imbalanced game state that we currently exist in. But before we get into all that fun stuff, let's kick it over to Wyatt for a classic Would you rather?
Would you rather be responsible for ending the Star Wars franchise or be responsible for ending the Star Trek franchise?
That's easy. Star Wars. Fuck out of here.
That's easy. Star Trek.
Let me go on. So like everybody knows it was you.
I was hoping you would say that.
And it's not like it's not like you made a bad movie and a bunch of fans are mad. It's like you are the decider and you said forever and always from now on there will never be another part of this franchise.
I was actually going to ask you that. I was actually going to ask you
because I'm giving you a really hard choice to make, Robin.
No, I mean, why would you just shit on somebody's like thing?
You wouldn't, because because the alternative is, if you don't choose, is you go to the Shadow Realm and you get butthole spiders.
Oh, well then that's easy then. If I got to choose between butthole spiders.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you that way. I was like, does everyone know he did it? Because I would like that to be a part of this.
Everybody knows you did it. Star
Wars. We don't need a bunch of dudes walking around trying to throw a ring in a volcano anymore. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Dumb, long movies that don't make sense. So just get rid of all those.
Yeah. So that's what that is.
But, keep my Star Trek.
Keeping your Star Trek.
My man John Luck Pickard is the greatest of all time.
My God.
He's like 80 and they keep making him do shows.
He's a legend.
Yeah, I don't think you realize how close to not having Star Trek you were.
You have to choose, Rob.
I'm going to kill Star Trek.
Oh, okay.
Because what? Everybody likes Star Trek is 60 years old at this point.
Yeah, it's not as cool as Star Wars. And everybody knows
not. Yeah. I mean, straight up, in that lawsuit against our buddy, they couldn't even prove a unbroken chain of like ownership. Like Paramount couldn't even.
Oh yeah, that's right. What was that?
They actually fucking own Star
Alec
Trek.
Peters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got the rights, or they got some rights to make. Yeah, that was ridiculous.
They could not actually prove that they owned Star Trek. How wild is that? But it's gone through so many iterations and so many like different companies through the years.
Yeah. You're right. It has.
I feel like we know who owns Star Wars, though.
Yeah. Either way, stand by it. Fuck all you nerds. It was me. Kenny Boucher made the decision. And he likes butthole spiders. I don't even mind the Shadow Realm.
He did it for fun.
I did this shit for fun.
You're gonna get some serious hate.
Answers.
Oh no, let me guess. I'm literally Hitler now.
Yeah.
Oh,
For you, the
God
day I
was
destroyed
law.
Star Wars was the worst day of your life. For me, it was a Tuesday.
it's just a Tuesday. Yup. It's true.
I'm gonna take out some billboard ads. It was me, guys.
I'm right here.
Man, you could probably parlay that into like a sick, like floating job opportunity in LA. Like everybody too scared to be the face of this cancellation. I'll do it for you. I don't care. You want to cancel a beloved shoot series? Let me do it.
I know it.
I enjoy making people mad.
That's a good one. I knew. I mean, and Rob loves Star Trek, and he loves Star Wars.
I like both of them, but if I had to choose,
You like Star Wars more. I've seen all your toys.
I don't have many toys.
You literally got one of those helmets.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. You want to
There's no helmet.
do some news before we jump into all of our hot topics to discuss this evening?
Hot topics about the Eldari.
Not actually OP. Stop whining.
Not OP. Do not nerf.
There's no data at all to support that claim.
No. Oh man. All right. So we got new GW releases this week. Space Marine Librarian and Terminator Armor, $38. Barb Gaunts, $45. Remember, these are all the push fit ETB models. The Ultimate Starter Set is $210. Remember, the Leviathan itself was $250. Warhammer 40K Starter Set is $110. The Ultimate Starter Set contains basically both sides of Leviathan that are the combat patrol. So they will be the combat patrols. They will go for $160. It also comes with a set of terrain and also a small mini rule book that they're selling separately for $25 this week. So, I mean, there's some good value in it. The starter set itself is basically the combat patrols minus the Barb Gaunts and minus the Librarian, which is probably why they put them out separately, for a lot less, for like $100 less. And, you know, oh no, there's no terrain in there. I feel like that's a sweet spot if you're looking to get into Warhammer 40K. That's probably where you want to go. There's an introductory set for $65 and then some like little mini paint sets and different things and a tool set for $45. This is basically geared towards new players or just, you know, people that just want to pick up some hobby supplies or some paints on the cheap. Not a bad value at all, but not anything that, you know, I think most folks listening to the show probably is going to be all about, unfortunately. White Dwarf 490 is coming out. And in this White Dwarf, they announced that they are doing something called the White Dwarf Bunker, which is going to be a worldwide gaming club where they will publish content in a published print form that you can follow along with and do activities for your game clubs or to be part of that game club and send in your information and things. And they'll publish it.
They'll publish your results in like some ongoing narrative or something?
No, it's just like, hey, here's some activities and here's some like campaigns and stuff to do when you're a gaming club, but you're part of our gaming club because it's the White Dwarf Bunker and such.
Sounds strange.
It's an imprint magazine. I think they're doing the best they can.
Yeah,
I feel like somebody at the top at GW's like, we're keeping the White Dwarf.
That
figure it out.
Figure some dumb shit out that makes sense here, guys.
I don't know if it's dumb. It's different. Maybe it'll stick. I don't know.
Like, what do we do? Write letters to our pen pals and shit? Like in the fucking game club across the world? Fucker, I got a Discord server.
I don't think GW knows that. I don't think they get any of that. I don't know. Anyways, there is the Warhammer 40K rules book itself in all sorts of different languages for $25. That's smaller than A5 size. If you're looking to pick it up, the mini rulebook size that you've probably come accustomed to. There is also an organized play pack coming out. Don't really know what it is, but hopefully it's like, some trophies and shit for events or tournaments that might be worth picking up. Hopefully it's a thing. Don't really know. I asked stores and they don't seem to know either, but they were told that if they wanted it, they needed to order it now. No pressure, guys. Also, speaking of stores and ordering things, this week's caps are basically 2 of the starter set, 2 of the ultimate starter set, and 2 of the Terminator and armor. Librarian and Terminator armor and the Barb Gaunts. But if you want the introductory set, the paint sets, the Tyranid paint set, the Space Marine paint set, or the tool set, it's capped at 30, which makes about 0 sense unless you wanted to reinforce the point that perhaps the GW is purposely trying to get people to go to the web store and buy the shit, or purposely go to their GW stores to buy the shit and not your local game store. So just keep that in mind. We talk about it every week. It's a real thing. Maybe I should just pretend it doesn't exist, and then maybe people will not go out of the way to not go to their local game stores.
It's all good, guys. Go anywhere. Go to your GW store. Nothing bad's gonna happen. We looked at the
Nothing
data.
bad's gonna happen. Your game store will definitely be there in 5 years. I swear.
Looked at the data. It's good.
It's all good here. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes. Anyways, there is a new preview this weekend, Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern, whatever that equates to in your local time. Going to be either new Space Marine previews or new Tyranid previews. We don't know. We don't know who actually won the 2-week campaign from the Leviathan box. But either way, there'll be some new stuff and pretty cool to see. We'll kind of take it from there. Look for that this weekend. I'm sure there's going to be pictures and coverage all over the place for everybody. Humble Bundle has a really cool deal up until about Tuesday next week, if I recall correctly. $270 in Black Library books for only $18, and that's if you buy that's like if you actually spend the $20. You don't even have to. There's like stuff in there for $5. It's kind of wild. They do this every quarter. It's always some sort of crazy deal, and the titles aren't bad. Between 40K. Some of the Sigmar stuff and actual Warhammer Fantasy too. So I was like, man, some of those books I read and they were good. So if you haven't read through a lot of Black Library stuff, you might want to check that one out for sure. Joy Toy released some previews, and I think they're actually up for pre-order right now. I saw it come through a couple hours ago. Mephiston is getting a figure. Agrax, I think his name is Agatone, the Salamander special character from the Psychic Awakening series, as well as a Chaos Sorcerer, all are getting new Joy Toy figures, which, I mean, Mephiston looks dope.
It does. Joy Toy I just
went to your website.
Hit after hit after hit.
It's just like, I kind of want the Imperial Knight or the Dread Knight. They said they're going to make an Imperial Knight, but they showed work in progress pictures of the Dread Knight. And that was like a long time ago. Like, where's that Dread Knight at?
Bro, this Mephiston is so fucking sick.
He's pretty fresh. Yeah.
You know what, Rob? I'm so impressed by this. I'm just going to allow your website to send me notifications.
You don't have to do that. But just sign up for the email newsletter. We'll just send you some newsletters.
I mean, motherfucker.
Just like KR Quinn. We send him some newsletters.
It's 4 or 5 a day.
Yeah, whatever. Don't act like you don't want it.
Garrett Quinn said, Joy Toys killing my relatives' possible inheritance. Just saying.
I have a shocking amount of Joy Toys as well. I ordered that Guildmane. And I was thinking about the Chaplain, but I'm definitely thinking about Mephiston for sure.
It's fucking sick, man. It fully is just like the old school feeling of like having dope action figures, you know, like
yeah.
So they're way cooler than what we had. Like our action figures suck.
Bad.
Dude.
It's real bad, dude.
They were terrible.
I know. I got the Android body Krang Ninja Turtles for my birthday from my brother. And in my mind, the one I used to have was so tight, and then I looked at it online on eBay and I was like, oh my God, it was so bad.
Yeah. I think Mephiston's gonna sell out. Quick. Yeah. There's favorites for everybody, but Joy Toy is just like crushing it. It's insane. Taking the GW licensing world by storm right there. Also, Star Wars Shatterpoint, they pushed back the Grievous pack to supposedly end of September, but now it's actually coming out this week. So July will have 3 expansions? No, 4.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I got a handful of mine delivered the other day, and then I got another notification that something was about to be shipped, and it was the Grievous thing. So I guess maybe there was some kind of weird, like,
I don't know.
Maybe they were waiting on a shipment that didn't show up on time, and they were covering, and then it did show up. Who knows?
I have no idea. And they also put out an FAQ last week. If you're into Shatterpoint, you probably already know this. But they split the eras. So your Force Org for Shatterpoint is basically eras. Like, the Clone Wars, but now it's not Clone Wars. Now it's like Rise of the Imperium or Rise of the Imperials. I'm not saying that right. Fall. Yeah. Rise of the Empire, Fall of the Jedi, Rise of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, and whatever Mando shit is now. That I forget what that is. So there's 4 now. So they just like they split the Force Org chart. It's crazy. But some things have split eras, so you'll be able to mix and match them. And the Inquisitor box actually is all separate figures, so you can get wild with the Inquisitor box now too. Cool. If you saw Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan series, you know what I'm talking about. All those figures come separately, so you can mix and match them into your list, right? So Shatterpoints, it's pretty good. I mean, I see more people playing it than Titanicus.
Yeah.
I actually enjoy playing it myself. So that is pretty much all the news I have right now. Last week, we talked about Baron of Dice, and a lot of folks on the show emailed them and say, hey, I talked about you on the show. And super appreciate that because, normally we did a big splash on Spiky Bits too. And normally I don't really follow up with retailers when we do a big thing. I kind of wait for it to all settle and hit them back up. And he straight up like sent me an email. He's like, guys, like got all this like hype and, I saw all these orders coming through. Why I fucking bought all the dice. He's got them to show us. He's straight up like, he's got stacks on stacks. And, so I super appreciate it whenever, anybody reaches out to retailers or things we talk about, mention the show. If you see it on Spiky Bits, mention Spiky Bits, of course. But, super appreciate that because it does matter. It does matter. People like to hear that folks enjoy hearing about their products.
Yeah, I can say after getting them, it's like nice out of the box experience. If you care about that kind of thing, dice are high quality. They feel good. I didn't know that some of the dice are matte finish, which I thought was a really cool idea. There have been times where I've played the game, and if you're like sitting at the table rather than standing, it's kind of a progression, right? Like everybody starts standing, and then like as the rounds go by, you're like, I don't want to stand up anymore. My feet hurt. So a lot of the real shiny dice, even if they're high contrast colors, like you can't see them under the overhead lights. So if they have a matte finish, they won't reflect and you'll be able to see them. And they feel really good in the hand. Like this is the first time I've ever had matte finished dice. And they really feel cool. So that's something to look at.
I actually don't own any Baron of dice. My sister messaged me on Instagram and told me that she's got sets of their dice and she loves them. And I was like, wait, what? Like, how do you have that? And I've rolled them because people have played against me with them, and that's how I knew about them. And I was like, these dice roll really good. Like they seem smooth. And then that's when I started looking it all up, and I talked to the guy that owns his name, Steve, and I talked to him at Adepticon. I was like, yo, your shit's dope. I don't know why I didn't buy any then. I'm basically the worst sometimes, but now we all know they don't suck, and we're just going to keep talking about them till
highly recommend.
Yep, cannot say enough good stuff. So now we have a tantalizing section about the Aeldari, I'm sure, and Imperial Knights. I can weigh in on the Knights. Don't know much about Aeldari.
Oh yeah, tonight's episode is titled Aeldari Fair and Balanced. Stop whining, Eldar. Eldar tight.
That's false.
That's false.
That's a Rickroll. We got you. Ha.
We would never.
No, it turns out of like, I don't know, 20 plus GTs over the past 2 weekends, Eldar have won like almost all of them. Not only that, like they're the majority of the podium and top 10, where it'll be like, oh, this tournament, top 3, Eldar. Not only that, top 4 and top 5, Eldar. Maybe an Imperial Knight thrown in there from time to time.
Yes.
So don't worry, guys. They fixed Eldar. They fixed the problem with their errata. Nothing to worry about.
Oh yeah, the fate dice.
Yeah, allowing them to still do exactly what they were doing before, but like a few less times, certainly fixed that problem.
You know, the Eldar, like we're in an imbalanced game state. We talked about that on Tactics earlier.
I think so.
My Patreon Tactics discussions propped up by Rob and Wyatt. Because if I don't have you guys, I don't know what to talk about. I was playing Diablo all week.
You literally play Diablo when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah, I know. It's a problem. It's a whole thing. But I'm preparing for Dallas for Lone Star Open. But when I come back to thinking about where we are in the game state, it's imbalanced as fuck. It's more imbalanced than it was a minute ago, right? Going from 9th to 10th. And we have a bunch of indexes, no codexes, but a bunch of codexes on the horizon that were unfortunately likely already written. I don't know how far out they do that, Rob. I don't know if they get all the codexes written ahead of time, but they certainly already had Space Marines and Tyranids already written, right?
I believe 16 to 18 months is the current.
Is the lead time on that?
Yeah, lead time. With actually going to print about 3 months ahead of time.
So we probably so that might not be so bad then. We might only have like 2 or 4 codexes that were written already. Or do you think all of them are in?
I would say the next 2 years or year and a half's worth are written.
Which is a total of how many codexes would you speculate?
We know 6 or 8 are coming out before into winter of 2024.
So most of them got it. So that's the mistake. So
that's a third.
A third. Well, I mean, buy it in for 2. You said for 2 years, though, right?
Say again.
There are going to be 6 to 8 codexes this year in 6 months.
Yes.
So,
but remember, they do that thing where they stuff supplements in there towards the end of an edition or like around.
Right, but if they do 5 codexes in half a year, that means there'll be 10 next year. And you say they already wrote all those.
In theory, yeah. So they've written
15 codexes are probably already written.
Right. And that's assuming they don't duplicate a book like they have done with Space Marines and stuff.
So it's possible that more than half the codexes were already written.
You could make that argument. Yeah.
And so this is the problem. This is where the GW is going to experience, quote unquote, a shit show. Okay. Now we don't come on here being negative unless we have a good reason to sound negative. So I want it to be clear that I'm going to play the fuck out of Warhammer 40K because, as Wyatt has said many times, you have 2 choices: play it or don't play it. I choose to play it. And I don't particularly give a shit if the game I love is not balanced. Doesn't bother me. I like that. As a matter of fact, I prefer it that way. I like that. So it's a little imbalanced right now, more than normal, for sure. And it gets progressively more imbalanced the more people on board what works, right? That's how shit works, right? Shit is good, people play it. So then you go to a tournament and, 2 out of 3 players are playing the same thing. That's happened 1 million times before. It's not the first time. Right now it's Knights. And Knights over Eldar, actually, because everyone has Knights. They're easy to play. There's only a few models. You probably already own them. They're probably sitting right behind you. You probably actually painted like 2 of your armigers. And we're like, damn, I love Knights. And then you lost passion, got distracted by Diablo 4 or something. And now you have a tournament this weekend and you're like, shit. And you just scramble to get the rest of your Knights done because it's really easy and also powerful. So Knights are going to be that, really the real imbalance right now, even though Eldar are like functionally rules mechanically super busted OP DPS, whereas Knights are sort of busted OPS or DPS, but insanely difficult to kill as well. GW has their work cut out for them because the codex is already written. We're in open beta, but they're not taking our notes as the playtesters.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have like a drop down report bug. They compile all that information and the patch comes out on Tuesday. Well, if your patch was already written for Tuesday and the drop down menus are an illusion, you see the problem? Then the patch addresses nothing that we are concerned with. It at most addresses what you predict is going to be a problem, if at all.
Right.
You see? So the problem with this becoming a shit show is that GW clearly has 2 different departments operating right now. Our meta team that we've come to actually love, doing their balance updates and everything, and they seem to understand the game. Like, I've been very impressed with them. I don't know about you, Wyatt. Like,
yeah, fairly.
Over 9th, like, I was impressed.
Yeah.
They're obviously being throttled a little bit right now, which we have seen happen before. The Votann release, for example. Remember the Votann drama, where they basically got embarrassed. Like, they got fucking shit on by all that. So the balance team can't go out there and fix these problems because they're probably being told not to, because any fix that would be drastic, which is unfortunately what is needed right now. We're talking about if Knights are a problem, part of the problem isn't just towering. That's an easy one. That's a core rule. Part of the problem is that motherfuckers lack the tools across the board, because if it's imbalanced, to all have the same opportunity to deal with them. So if Knights are a gatekeeping army because they're easily accessible, most people already have them collected, and they're going to bring them out to market right now. And 2 out of 3 people are playing a Knight in a vacuum. But the faction you like actually doesn't have tools to deal with a Knight in one turn. Then the whole like mental exercise of like scheming and against the gatekeeper army isn't actually fun.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where that is actually something that's been historically fun for me and Wyatt. We've said that many times, is scheming on how to take down Knights. But if I simply don't have the tools, that's the problem. So to fix that, you actually have to write new rules. You have to exchange literal entire cell boxes on a spreadsheet with new numbers. And if you already wrote those and they're coming out of physical codex, they're being essentially, in my opinion, told, nah, dude, you can't do that. Because how hard is it to hotfix these as they come out? That's why they gave us the Desolator Knight Eldar FAQ last week, which is why it was also kind of a very soft fix. Point changes and 1 small restriction on fate days. That's the most they're allowed to do right now. So it's not going to get balanced anytime soon. You're going to have to wait until more codexes come out. We see things aren't being fixed. People continue, and then GW have to address it. So my advice to anyone is just like play the game, adapt to what's OP. Can't beat them, join them. I'm down to play a game of everyone plays Knights. Fuck it. But I'm teasing on that. You know what I am down for though, Wyatt? is everyone's playing Knights, so I know what to fucking gear for.
It's true. If you're really worried about it and it's flooded the meta and you can tool to beat that, that puts you in a position to do really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because like there are factions that do have the tools to deal with them. Not equally across the board, obviously, but some have like pretty solid answers to them. So if you're like, well, most motherfuckers in my area play Knights right now, I should spec into this. If that means I almost just kind of win 2 out of 3 games suddenly. You know, like, so I don't mind that game state, you know, so.
Also, when a lot of places are like saying that line of sight blocks through ruins, that gives you a lot of.
Depends on the player pack, etc.
Yeah, that gives you a lot of opportunity to still score objectives and still be hidden in your shit, you know. And
that's exactly, and why Rob has played Knights. It's what he's been playing. He's beautifully painted, by the way. Love it. I hope that most Knight players strive to that.
I painted with Sharpies, Kenny.
You did.
Can't be that good.
You did, but you also used your airbrush.
I did.
And it looks beautiful. So Knights are fun because they're also kind of easy to do that too. And so I would encourage anyone, if you're bringing Knights to market, be prepared that your opponents are going to whinge and whine. So you don't want to do your utmost to eliminate as much of that as possible. Because if you show up with barely painted Knights, you're going to look exactly like what you are. So at least put, you know, a little bit of fucking airbrush love in there. Watch a couple videos online. I just know how that's going to go. You're going to go everywhere you go. People are like, oh, really? Knights? Onboarding that shit? Fucking trying. And you're going to be like, I love Knights. I collected them for years. No one cares. Your trash painted Knights are all they look at. Paint them good, dog. But things like Rob said, hey, spec into MSU units that are small and can hide behind walls for those events. Spec into the things that do devastating wounds in droves. Spec into the things that you know you could fucking slap on the chins of those Knights while winning the game.
Or just, there's also ways, like, for instance, you know, bondsman. If your Knights, you know, your opponent's hitting on 2s, standing still, you know, getting sustained hits, you can kill the armigers a lot quicker, and then they're not hitting on 2s, or just make them make choices and get out of position because of where you put stuff in, right? And it doesn't take a lot to get, you know, 10 blue horrors dropping in, taking an objective from an armiger, and then popping in the brimstones and shit is a problem for Knights.
There you go.
Big time.
From the mouth of a Knight player, he's like, demons kind of worry me.
Demons are like Knights. I'm straight up. Demons are like Knights, but better. Like, and you can put Knights in demons.
One of my students was sharing with me his demon army, and I was like, yo, this is sick, dude. Like,
a lot of the great demons are real nasty.
Orcs are a problem too. Orcs are a huge problem for Knights. Like, they will, if you stand still and you just back up or something, that is the worst thing. If you let them hit you all at once, you will lose all of your shit in one turn.
Yeah. So some of the spiciest things to deal with Knights, you know, might not be in your current collection. So that's unfortunate, but that's every edition of Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
So if you're tired of playing against Knights and losing in your local area, as we said since before the edition even launched, this is the best time to start something new. That's the answer. It's going to change. It's going to get rebalanced. But I think the reason this is a shit show is it's going to take longer than it's ever taken before. I think we're going to live in an imbalanced game state for a long period of time.
I did want to talk about that for a second. So I pulled up the Codex roadmap. So we have these ambiguous dates here. So we have autumn 2023, Nids and Space Marines. Then we have winter 2023, which, remember, winter actually ends. Well, it was at March 23rd, 2024. So winter 2023 technically would mean, I don't think it means what they think it means, because winter 2023 is technically starts in December. It ends in December if you say winter 2023. Anyways, moving on. So that's Adeptus Mechanicus and Codex Necrons. Spring 2024, which technically starts in March and ends in June, right? That's right. Yeah. March to June. That's spring. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a druid. I don't know about the weather patterns.
Dark Angels, Orcs, Adeptus Custodes, Tau, and Chaos. There are 9 codexes coming out technically by June 2023 of next year.
Yeah, so they already wrote those.
Well, I mean, definitely already wrote those, but think about this. That's 9 out of 24 factions by the middle of next year.
So all these codexes they already wrote are basically written wrong. Because they didn't have the data. They didn't have the data.
Well, remember, they don't actually go to print till about 3 months ahead of time. So you might have a PDF, but that's just a guideline.
Oh, that's a little different. Thanks for the clarification. So keep whinging and hollering on the internet, because there is a chance that if they, with a 3-month lead time on finalization for final proofs, that we do get some of the results we want.
True. I mean, granted, they're not going to change shit. Like, say, this book is coming out spring 2024. That means March. So that means January. So the latest they can make any changes and proof it is before they go on Christmas break, in December. Right. So yeah, but there's still time for sure.
I mean, GW is obviously aware of the community. Like we mentioned this earlier. So circling back to the Knights issue, the hot topic last week was, do Knights fucking reroll 1 die roll of 1 or all of them? Right. That's been,
who knows?
Who fucking knows at this point. Right. And we here on the podcast, we said since day one that that's an aggressive free faction rule, but it is absolutely interpretable as you reroll all of the ones. But I don't believe that's the case, because that means you have a lieutenant and a captain aura on every model. It got a little bit easier to buy though when they said Knights are 60 more points. But we have a text. I mean, there's a screenshot from Discord that's been floating around. You guys may have seen it, may not, if you're listening to this podcast. And it's in regards to that ruling for Tacoma. Like today, tomorrow. Maybe you're there right now.
Technically starts tomorrow.
So you might be there right now.
Friday.
You might be driving it right now. You might be you might even be unaware of this. That's how fucking tight Tacoma's keeping this shit.
That's one of the big things that I'm like, this is not cool.
If you're driving there right now and this is the first you're hearing about this, just let that fucking sink in. And I'll even give you the name of the people to blame here. It says it's addressed to someone named Scott, and it's from the Tacoma Open. It's from Zach Roshner, Senior Manager, Organized Play. He says, your question was forwarded to me. Lalo the Tyrant, which is the special rule in question, will be played as a single hit roll of 1 and a single wound roll of 1 at Tacoma. Thanks. That's the ruling. I haven't seen it anywhere published on their website, anywhere on the internet, or a player's pack, but that's
the player's pack as of right now linked on their site is the Omen, Arca Omens, Arcs of Omen player's pack from not even this edition.
Yeah, it seems, and I don't know. Like if I was going to a tournament, it doesn't matter who it's run by. So we'll just keep that agnostic in this hypothetical.
Sure.
Generally, the cool thing to do that we've all agreed on collectively is 1 to 2 weeks for list submission and rules cutoff, specifically to avoid something like I just dropped money on a ticket to attend your event. I dropped money on travel expenses. I dropped money on lodging expenses, and I'm probably going to drop a lot of money on maybe buying things at your convention. If it's something like Adepticon, and food, etc., all to attend your event and have a good time. That's the reason that we're all here, right? At the end of the day, to have a great time. To avoid the feels bads of having done all that, and then you show up and be like, "Hey, yo, this morning we all decided that we're going to change how your army works, and thanks for thanks for showing up." That's really, really shitty. And again, that has happened before. GW has done it before. Things that were unseen or questions that weren't asked for a collective FAQ have been ruled on at a tournament for some rare circumstance. But the idea of showing up to a tournament after everything else and be like, new rules, your army doesn't work that way anymore. That hasn't happened in a really, really long time because it upsets people. And it's like,
when it comes to a rules clarification, I don't mind it being within the 2-week cutoff as long as it's prominently published and circulated on the internet.
Right. Like that's a big thing. Like if
like a clarification, not necessarily a fucking rules change, because this could be interpreted as not a rules change. It's just a clarification. That shit needs to be like blah 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 blah, like resource updates circulating. Where's my Warcom fucking article? All that shit. This shit is hidden.
That's a big mechanic for how Knights work. And there has been constant discussion on how this works between different TOs. Different events have run it different ways.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not all one camp.
And it's a hot topic. This is the talk of the town, son.
That's something that is going to influence what you play in an event. Like if you're thinking about playing Knights, even if you're going to play Knights no matter what, the way that you build your list for what you're bringing to that tournament is, predicated on how that army works in the first place. So like if Rob is going to that tournament with his Knights, and the TO ruling is, one way or the other, his list might be radically different, right? Like his weapon choices, like all that enhancements, everything might be different. And so it's like, if you build it under the assumption of one way or how it's being played everywhere else, and then you show up and they're like, nah, we're saying it works something different. Like that's a real kick in the teeth because like the agreed upon thing is that you do that before lists are locked out. Like that's the compromise that we've made. Is it like something might be in an unbalanced state, like with what happened with a number of tournaments in Eldar, but the rule cutoff was like after everybody's list got submitted. So it's like we just have to play it as it lies at that point.
So I was typing this. So we all know, so I'm going to say this right here. So Karaquin, he said something, and I think is an instinct I have too. He says, the real question is, do you need to win that bad? If so, in my opinion, you're playing the wrong game. And I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, ultimately, does this really bother you because they changed it? I'm like, look, here's the thing. I'm not in a position where like I need to determine what someone's opinion is and what weight that has on this. What it really comes down to is a business exchange. Money in exchange for entertainment value. That's literally what human existence is. Endlessly trying to entertain myself until I die in exchange for money. And so when you do things like this, like, take a known hot topic, a known concern, address it, which is the right thing to do, but not publicize it and let people have forewarning about it. You actually devalue that exchange. Like money in exchange for entertainment. I am going to be entertained this weekend at Tacoma, and here's my money. I drive in the car. I'm listening to the Long War podcast right now, and I just found out while I'm pulling into the parking lot that one of the mechanics of my army has been clarified to do the opposite of the way I was playing it. Sure, will that really impact my wins? Who knows? Will that change my fun factor? Yet to be seen. But this is devaluing that exchange, which is just straight up bad business coming from a man known for bad business.
Also,
the actual global event coordinator for Games Workshop, Mike Brandt. This has happened at Nova, all sorts of events.
Nova was a big thing.
Like,
I mean, I'll like add on to that point a little bit. Like, yes, you should not tie your level of enjoyment or the value of self-worth to winning games of Warhammer at a tournament, right? That's like just bad for you, right? It causes bad behavior, 100%. But I also think your statement is a little flippant because whilst when I go to tournaments, if I lose all my games or I win all my games or any combination thereof, I'm going to have a great time no matter what, because I truly enjoy the game and I enjoy the social experience. That doesn't mean that I don't want to win. Like if I'm in a position where I think I can do really well at a tournament, like I still want to do well. If I don't, I'm not going to like feel really bad about it, right? Like those two things are not mutually exclusive, right? So saying like, get fucked, don't tie your ego to it, like play the army anyways, that's a little flippant.
Yeah, he acknowledges it's a bad thing. The thing is, that's why I addressed it, because it's like I have a low key instinct to make that a similar statement to him, because my personal feelings are not being targeted by this rule of clarification. And because I play the game and you play the game in a very specific way that does not require us to have on the table success to be entertained, while it does influence our entertainment factor, like I also felt that instinct. And I feel like a lot of people online who are being shit upon by Knights would also kind of feel that instinct. Like, well, fuck these Knight guys. Like, they're just only here to win. You know, like, that's why I think it's worthy of that clarification, right? Like, it might be your instinct to feel that way, but distill it down to just business practice. That's bad business, right? You buy an iPhone, that would be bad business. You fucking go to a grocery store, that'd be bad business. Like, you don't know about something that you went to the place for until you showed up for it because it's false advertising. That is a bad business practice, right?
I'd say so.
Devalues your fucking, like, you know, if you went to the grocery store and like you found out and you drove all, like you said, all the money, flights, all that shit, take that down to a smaller scale. Me getting in the car, getting dressed and driving to the folk and across town to a fucking furniture sale. Getting there and finding out that they bait and switched me. Now I'm there. I just as easily get in the car and go back home.
Yeah. How you handle that situation emotionally is up to you. And we're like, your point being like, don't tie your enjoyment to that feeling is an accurate one. Don't do that. But at the same time, I think you're allowed to be like, well, you know, I'm here under the pretense of what I bought a ticket for, XYZ, you know, the social agreement that we've made as tournament goers with TOs is that like there's going to be a rules cutoff when the list cutoff is, and then after that, like we just got to play it as is. So doing that kind of rule bait and switch or clarification bait and switch like day of without any type of clarification is just it's a not cool move.
No,
like, that
it's
is
not cool.
It's not cash money,
it's
bro.
Like, it's like going to the car dealership and getting bait and switched on, and you're already there, and now you have a choice. I can get in my car, just drive home, and know I've wasted all of this fucking effort. I can give this guy a piece of my mind, which oftentimes is what I do, right? Or you can be pressured into doing something at a level of entertainment or enjoyment that you didn't want. Like this happens to us every day in our life, and when we play our hobby, that's not supposed to be something that happens. All this takes is fucking posting this shit on Facebook, posting this shit on fucking Warcom. This is coming from a GW official tournament. No excuses. You have Warhammer community, dog. Like, this is trash. You know what I mean? But like, coming from someone who I absolutely though, do, for the record, a lot of my enjoyment is tied to my win record. Like, period. I don't want to lose games. You know, so like I can sympathize with anybody who's going there to win. Like, it sucks. But I agree with Wyatt and like I agree with doing everything, Wyatt. Like, it's like, yeah, it's just like, fuck, man. I can't believe this. I mean, this is so ridiculous, dude. Like, it's just, but it's such a small thing though, right? Like, but it's also kind of ridiculous. But what about Eldar, right? Like, so we're talking about Knights and the hot topic of Knights. Meanwhile, Eldar is the most dominant force on the tabletop.
Yeah.
So where's our rules clarification there? Like, where's our last minute hot fix there?
Because it's pretty obvious that like what they've done with the fate dice is not enough. So like I was being a little hyperbolic in the pre-show. The fate dice stuff was a nerf. It did stop a lot of what was happening. It is still a very powerful tool. Don't get it twisted. Like, it still fucks. But beyond that, there is a systemic problem with that codex of the wealth of powerful units that even with some points cost changes here and there are still way too cheap for what you're doing on the table. Like fire prisms, they went up in points. They are still disgustingly powerful. There are things that are insane that weren't touched at all, like Warwalkers. Warwalkers are wildly powerful. The ability to spam a stat line like a Bright Lance is crazy when you look at that codex.
Yeah, that's part of that imbalance, right? One of the Knights' tabletop success is directly tied to not every faction having access to that type of weaponry in that kind of bulk. So without fate dice, it seems that Eldar would still be successful.
Yeah, and like on top of that too, like one thing that I was kind of not paying super attention to because I'm not an Eldar player, but like as I was looking into it, the ability to like re-roll your whole pool of fate dice is something that I think also needs to get looked at a little bit. Because yes, you do lose one dice out of the pool every time you reroll the pool, but when you only need like a small handful of the perfect number of fate dice to do exactly what you want, like that adds to fuel to the fire. I was just gonna like pull up the Warwalker data sheet real quick.
And also something you said earlier, don't forget, when you were talking about how not rolling a dice and just having a result is such a mechanic that utterly is non-existent in Warhammer 40K, but it just keeps showing back up.
Right. I don't think mechanically the design team kind of understands the depth at which people can look into a mechanic like that. Yes, in list building and with various synergistic combos, you can decrease the amount of randomness in this game, but at the end of the day, it is a dice game. So even if you hit on 2s and reroll 1s, you could reroll a 1 into a 1, right? Even if you wound on 3s with rerolling 1s, you could roll a bunch of 2s, right? So the ability to take exactly the die value that you need for any given circumstance and simply replace it and have that not count as a modifier, the way that combines with other rules in the game and just like in a vacuum in and of itself is way too strong, right? Even if you can only do it once per phase, you also have to think about like you can do stuff out of sequence a lot in this new edition, and not just Eldar, but a lot of people can do that. So you're not looking at the out of sequence stuff you can do with fate dice, right? And then when you have the proliferation of really powerful weapons for really cheap, compared to other factions, trying to get that same weapon or a similar stat line weapon, and it's like sometimes double or triple the platform cost, and you do not have the same suite of rules, like those two things don't line up, right? So it's like if you have the ability to put 4 Bright Lances out there for less than I can put 4 las cannons out there, like that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I mean, they have a lot of their classic mobility access points, their stratagem styles that they're always known for, but they also have an excessive access to the right kind of weapons that people are struggling to bring on the table right now, and a bad game mechanic. Because there's the problem with the fate dice is it's just a bad game mechanic. It's like it's the faith dice and fate dice problem. A pull of dice that just let you say a dice number and then exchange it. I don't care if I'm raffle stomping this Eldar player. Every time he does that, I'm just like, that just pisses me off. Just pisses me off that you get to just say, oh, this is a 6 now. This is a 1 now. This is a 2 now. That just is irritating. Even if it's not even that fucking compelling on the table as a good rule, that shit just utterly is infuriating. I hate it. But Eldar have historically played a different game than the rest of us. And they're at the top right now of best DPS for the cheapest price with the most wily fucking, utility-based fucking abilities. Classic Eldar, and it's also one of the issues I think with Knights. It's funny because you talk about the Warwalkers and stuff, is like one of the things I think is an issue with Knights is how cheap fucking armigers and shit are. Like
140.
135 for the fucking Stalker?
Right?
Yeah.
We're talking Chaos Knight.
Chaos?
Oh, Chaos Knight. Yeah. Dude's 135, man. 135. OC8. What the hell, man?
Yeah. When you compare let's just talk about that stat line for a second, right? So the Stalker is loaded out with a souped up melta cannon and a punchy fist, right? Like think you're like Dreadnought Fist.
Yeah.
Right? Except their Dreadnought Fist is strength 12.
Yeah.
And they can have a secondary gun on top. right?
Yeah, they can have like a Melta 4 2-shot lance situation.
Right, and then you get like the gun on the top of the carapace too. That's free ward.
It's just a normal Melta.
Yeah.
They move faster than a dreadnought, and they are more OC than a dreadnought. Their saves kind of balance out, right? Because a dreadnought has a 2-up save but no invul, whereas the armiger has a 3-up save but a 5-up invul save.
But 12 wounds.
Yeah, 12 wounds.
Also doesn't work in combat.
Moves 12 inches.
Yeah, and then its rule makes it very self-sustaining, because its rule is that it gets +1 to wound with like all of its weapons if its target has no allies within 6 inches, right? Whereas with the dreadnought, you're relying a lot on the army rules like Oath of Moment and stuff. So if it's attacking something that's not its Oath of Moment target, its efficiency goes way down. So if you're looking at something like the Redemptor, it's 225. If you look at something like the Ballistus Dreadnought, 175. So, like, where is the points balance in that? Where is that going?
Yeah, and because the thing is, it's for knights, right? So in their mind, they're balancing it for the knight codex. They're saying, well, since it's just big knights and little knights, they need these things to be kind of. They need to have these units so that they can fill out their roster and take objectives. But when you really start looking at it, it might be part of the problem. Like if knights had to make more decisions, if they had less access to those guys, then they make more decisions about how many big guys versus how many little guys and not being able to actually secure objectives and stuff. That might change it a little bit. And someone in chat was mentioning like that the stalker doesn't get the Melta. We're talking chaos. Chaos War Dog has a Demon Breath Spear.
Yeah.
Free.
So
24-inch range, 2 shots.
This model's Avenger chain cannon can be replaced with 1 Demon Breath Spear.
Yeah. The shit's strength 12, AP 4, 2 shots, D6, Melta 4. Yeah, that's free, dog.
Yeah. And like, what's the strength value on your dreadnought fists and your codex? It's like strength 10. Right?
No, dreadnoughts have higher strength. They're strength 12. Like they punch up.
I thought that was one of the things that you were talking about.
No, AP. It's AP. The AP is what's so dreadnought fist is AP 2. The slaughter claw is AP 3. And it's D6 plus 2, not 3 damage. So it fucks harder, for sure. Like,
yeah.
So it's
that's what you and I have been talking about a lot, because we're looking at the Chaos Space Marine / World Eaters problem.
For as long as they let us click the ally part of the roster and add 3 stalkers, we are.
Yeah. Because it's like when you compare that to the tools that we have at our disposal, like our tools suck. Like a Hellbrute is trash. Like sometime when the Hellbrute was created, the James Workshop came down from on high and was like, this lump of shit shall forever always be dog shit. Never give it good rules. I don't know why that seems to be the case. When you look at something that does like, I want to be able to melee knights. If I don't have the guns, what do I have? Forge Fiend or Mauler Fiend. Way over points costed for what it gets you. And it's not as tight as the War Dogs can be. So always take the War Dogs, because they're just, they're on sale. They're on fire sale for some reason.
Yeah. Fucking. It might be one of the problems too. I mean, it's like I said, it's wildly imbalanced right now. Mm-hmm. Because even the regular bullshit dreadnought is like 160 or some shit. Like Ironclad dreadnoughts like 160 or 150. Fucking, this is ridiculous. And so we need GW to start like fucking going to town on point adjustments. We need to have a weekly point adjustment at this point. Just do it. Just let us just get the hard shit out of the way. Let us fucking experience that. As much as like, I love having access to these stalkers and stuff at these points. I'm like, we're back to that part where I'm like, well, that's just the right choice. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I'm not even, like I said, I'm not even that negative on that. These are just suggestions. Like,
yeah, it's just an example of like one of the systemic issues.
Two things we're talking about. Yeah, we're talking about Eldar. We're talking about Knights right now. Eldar is the same thing. Most of their problems are actually these fucking units, these peripheral units that take advantage of their fate dice. I think nothing like a fate dice mechanic should exist. But if you're gonna let it exist, don't let it be applied to a periphery of like fucking underpointed over fucking DPS units.
Yeah,
like
that's why I've said like I also don't like the fate dice thing, but objectively, I think that those players deserve a cool rule. I think everybody deserves cool rules. Like we all want to have fun with this game, and I want them to have their cool thing. My fix to it was just change it to a dice modifier, and that stops not everything, but it stops like the most egregious feels bads with like the smallest amount of change. But for whatever reason, they've decided that the change is going to be once per phase, and it still counts as unmodified for some reason. So we're just going to have to let that do what it do until they decide to change it.
Facts. I'm still looking forward to Lone Star Open. Next week, I'll be flying into Austin, so I guess I won't be here for the podcast. I guess.
Are you flying in on Thursday? Oh, yeah. It's a Friday, Saturday thing?
Yeah, so we're flying in on Thursday.
So I guess there isn't a podcast?
So it's just a good thing I'm looking at this now. So maybe we'll be at Wyatt's house to podcast from there.
You can like check in, I guess. Do something.
I mean, we'd have to stream. Someone else has to stream it. So potentially no podcast next week.
Yeah. See.
I just looked at the dates and just saw it. So yeah, we're flying on the 20th.
Why don't you just not worry about it? And then there's no pressure.
I mean, like, just don't tell you until the day of.
Rob, do you want a hall pass to just go to the bar and get wasted?
I mean, I don't need a hall pass for that, Wyatt.
He's the grown-ass man. I forgot
you do that all the time anyways.
I don't think you understand the analogy is you have it twisted. Like, he's not the student who needs a hall pass at the bar. He's like the principal of the bar. Like, he owns that shit. He's the superintendent. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
Nah. He writes the hall passes.
I'm just saying, maybe I could play some 10th edition or something.
All right, no podcast next week. Nailed it.
Tight.
Or Shatterpoint. Well, I'm not going to play Titanicus. That's for fucking sure.
Yeah, fuck that game. I'm sure you have a line of people that you're going to disappoint by saying that. Like, who want to play you this weekend at Titanicus.
At Titanicus? Yeah. I'll get back to you on that one.
All right. Well, didn't have a lot to talk about. So a lot of opinions today, mostly editorials here. Rob coming in clutch like a professional and bringing us news. Thank you, Rob.
That's what I do.
You know what else you do?
I take us out.
You take us out after I tell Wyatt to take us out.
Oh, okay.
Wyatt, you want to take us out of here?
Yeah. Kenny, do you want to take us out of here?
No doubt. Rob, you want to take us out of here?
So that's it for this one, y'all. Thanks for listening. For exclusive content, early access videos, and more, head on over to thelongwar.net and become a veteran of the Long War today. I was distracted by something on Twitch.